Um, so Roberta Daiho Rohu Lavin is a professor of nursing and disaster researcher at the University of New Mexico College of Nursing. She specializes in climate change related and nuclear disasters and public health preparedness. In 2024, she received Tokudo from Rosan Yoshida, deepening her commitment to Soto Zen practice. She is a fellow in the Contemplative Medicine Fellowship at the New York Zen Center, integrating contemplative practices with healthcare. Passionate about education, resilience, and holistic well being, she strives to bridge the fields of nursing, public health, and Zen practice to foster compassionate care and disaster readiness. Today, she'll be talking on The Stone Woman's Child, Reimagining Health and Environment Through Zen Wisdom.
Um, the problem of suffering is something that in Zen we refer to as dukkha in existence. Um, Suffering or dukkha is an inherent part of our existence. And I want to focus on the wisdom of Dōgen to explore the problem of suffering in the context of public health and environmental hazards and health equity. If we recognize that public health and environmental crises stem from ignorance of interconnectedness, then it's easy to understand that suffering arises when we see ourselves as separate from the world around us, leading to exploitation, environmental degradation, and health inequities. The climate crisis, pollution, and disparities in healthcare are symptoms of this fundamental misunderstanding that we are not separate from our environment. As a society, we suffer because we fail to recognize the interdependence with the natural world. And thus, we are experiencing environmental destruction, pandemics, and inequalities. The rise or cause of suffering is disconnection and ignorance. Dogen in the Mountain Waters Sutra teaches that nature and human life are not separate. He writes, mountains and waters right now are the realization of the way of ancient Buddhas. Both of them, abiding in their Dharma state, achieve the ultimate merits. Because of the inseparability of life and death before the emptiness eon, they live actively at each moment. Because they have been the self since before phenomena arose, they interpenetrate. Yet modern society treats nature as an exploitable resource. This dualistic view has led to suffering. We neglect the reality that by harming the environment and sentient beings in it, we are harming ourselves. What progressive insight can we gain? We can begin by understanding that our ethical responsibility extends beyond ourselves to all beings. This is what is meant in the Buddha's teaching that craving and nescience and selfishness penetrate our suffering. Ignorance obscures the direct experience of nirvana. There is no vantage point from which one can witness the Dharma world before the phenomenal world arises. Ignorance does not give us eyes to see or ears to hear. But we should hear and understand that climate change is in part due to human actions, as are many of our environmental hazards, such as open uranium mines in New Mexico, plastic everywhere, and air pollution. Much of this comes from our own greed, not seeing the big picture and not caring about the well being of our neighbors. Thus, we need to confront the rise or cause of suffering. The To bring about the cessation of suffering, or nirvana, we need a profound perspective and ethical action. Understanding interconnectedness is the key to alleviating suffering. Dogen and the Genjo Koan, realizing the universal truth, states to learn the awakened way is to learn the self. To learn the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be verified by all dharmas. This means that our liberation comes through recognizing that we are part of a vast, intricately interdependent network of all that is. Public health, environmental justice, and social equity are not separate concerns. They are on the bodhisattva path to save all beings. Addressing health inequalities and environmental hazards expresses our profound wisdom and compassion. The third noble truth is that suffering can end when the causes are removed. What are the root causes of suffering that we now face? We can begin by identifying concrete steps to address suffering through sustainable living, policy advocacy, and equitable health care. How many of our attachments and delusions can we let go of by embracing sustainable and ethical practices? There are actions that can be taken, such as carbon offsets every time we take a flight, solar panels for houses, environmentally friendly appliances, and not buying water in plastic bottles. The way to solve the cause of suffering is the path of prognosis or prajna. Dogen teachings illustrate the fourth noble truth, offering a path of prognosis or prajna that leads from insight to action. What what are Maja? And I don't mean MAGA like the political party, but MAGGA, lowercase, meaning the path to liberation from suffering. The actions that sometimes sound easy may prove difficult, but taking a stand against censorship and speaking the truth about environmental and health crises is one application of the Eightfold Path. It expresses both right speech and right action. As Rosan teaches us, a pinhole will collapse the great dam in time. Small injustice, when ignored, grow into systemic failures. If they are left unchecked, they will impact our collective karma. What would courage and integrity in action look like? In Dogen's Mountain and Water scripture teaching, it is written, the green mountains are always walking. A stone woman gives birth to a child. Maybe the best solution is to recognize our current situation is a rapidly moving environment. Looking beyond conventional distinction and rigid dualities, we see the interdependence between environment and health. If we think change is impossible in given conditions, there is always what is beyond our expectation. To address suffering, we must integrate contemplation and right action. As practitioners, we act with courage and integrity, resisting pressure to self-censor when the truth must be spoken. We must see the non-dualistic nature of the world and engage fully, not letting ourselves be trapped. Public health and environmental justice are not political choices, but moral imperatives grounded in the Dharma. May we, like the mountains of water, express the Buddha way through wisdom, compassion, and fearless engagement in the world. May wisdom and insight emerge like the stone woman giving birth, against the common sense view that we are giving birth to all kinds of things, good and bad, right and wrong. Even though it is delusional to think everything is not connected, separations are illusions. Silence may express a big truth, but to teach, at least sometimes, you have to say something. As Category Roshi believed, you can't sit in silence all the time or from fear of getting it wrong. Thank you.
Hopefully we can meet again. Okay, thank you everybody to join. Thank you, Rolf, for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.